Welcome to Hero Villains. So, who do you think would win if Deadpool fought Carnage? It's a clash between chaos and madness. Deadpool, whose real name is Wade Wilson, is a mercenary who was experimented on by the US government in the Weapon X program, where he gained an extraordinary healing ability. His body can recover almost instantly from any injury, even losing limbs or being impaled through the heart. On top of that, he's an exceptional fighter with lightning-fast reflexes and a wildly unpredictable mind that keeps his enemies guessing. His twisted sense of humor, insane personality, and tendency to break the fourth wall make Deadpool a true agent of chaos in any battle. Carnage, on the other hand, is the embodiment of pure nightmare. Once a serial killer named Cletus Kasady, he merged with a red symbiote that's a descendant of Venom. Carnage's power far surpasses Venom's, granting him incredible speed, strength, shapeshifting abilities, and the power to create weapons from his own body. He's relentless, existing only to kill and spread mayhem wherever he goes. Before we dive deeper into the analysis, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by tapping the little bell icon. Thank you so much for watching. Wade Wilson carries within him a tangled mess of childhood memories, fragments blurred between what was real and what was imagined. At times, he remembers his father abandoning his mother while she was still pregnant, leaving her alone and bitter. That pain eventually turned into anger, and she took it out on her only son. When Wade grew up, consumed by rage and despair, he struck back with the same violence he once suffered. But there's another version of his past that haunts him. In those memories, his mother died when he was only 5, and his father, once a military officer, became a cruel alcoholic. That life filled Wade's childhood with fear and resentment. When he was finally old enough to leave that home behind, he joined the US Army Special Forces. Despite his exceptional skills, Wade was discharged for refusing to carry out orders that went against his moral code. Before his 19th birthday, he attempted to end his life but failed. That moment of despair unexpectedly opened a new path. He was approached by a covert assassination group backed by the CIA. They offered him a place among them, promising that every target they took on truly deserved punishment. That's when Wade Wilson became known as Deadpool, a name that reflected both his reckless attitude and his fearless approach to combat. After the war, he officially adopted the codename as he stepped into the life of a mercenary. Deadpool became a master close combat fighter, skilled in various martial arts with agile movements and explosive power. With years of experience, he mastered a wide range of weapons, from combat knives to long-range firearms. His customized arsenal often included stun guns, plasma rifles, concussion weapons, and other advanced designs built for the most dangerous missions. Thanks to biological and technological enhancements, Deadpool gained superhuman abilities. His reinforced muscles and augmented skeleton gave him extraordinary strength, allowing him to lift up to 2 tons without injury. His enhanced physiology let him react with lightning speed and survive wounds that would kill any ordinary person. He also used a sophisticated stealth device integrated directly into his body. The system combined bioluminescent components with a holographic projector, creating a shifting light field that could alter his appearance. Controlled through neural circuits linked to his helmet, Deadpool could activate camouflage with just a thought, vanishing into the chaos of battle, a ghostly figure grinning through clouds of gun smoke. Once a trusted member of the Reavers during his time in the military, Deadpool convinced them to join him in an experimental program designed to enhance their combat abilities. He believed that with advanced technology, they could become stronger and capable of standing against mutants beings he saw as a growing threat. The Reavers agreed without hesitation, too tempted by the promise of superior power to refuse. Deep down, Deadpool's hatred for mutants burned relentlessly. He saw them as individuals born with gifts they never had to earn, while he suffered and bled to gain his own. That bitterness made him easy prey for manipulation when Augustus Beezer and Mojo, 2 longtime enemies of mutant kind, invited him to take part in a violent reality show where participants were allowed to hunt and kill mutants for entertainment. Deadpool not only accepted the offer but embraced it as an opportunity to prove that humans could still surpass those born with powers. Soon after, he found himself face to face with Peter Parker, the Spider-Man, and Kitty Pryde, the Shadowcat. Both Spider-Man and Shadowcat became targets in a brutal hunt orchestrated by Mojo. Yet, through these violent encounters, Deadpool began to realize just how thin the line between justice and hatred truly was. It was a savage game where mutants were hunted for sport in the bloodiest show the world had ever seen. The arena of the show was set on Krakoa Island, off the coast of Genosha, a sovereign territory that had already witnessed countless tragedies in mutant history. At first, the X-Men intervened and shut the program down, forcing producer Mojo Adams and his new host, Augustus Beezer, to find a way to bring it back with a bigger twist. Their idea was bold. They wanted Deadpool to join as the main hunter. To Wade, it wasn't just a profitable opportunity. It was a chance to unleash all the anger he had bottled up toward mutants, those he believed were gifted with power without ever earning it. However, he set one condition. He had to be allowed to bring his own trusted team. He reached out to the Reavers, his former military comrades, and they all agreed. They were willing to sacrifice their humanity, undergoing extreme cybernetic surgeries that made their bodies stronger, tougher, and capable of taking on mutants with incredible power. Driven by personal hatred and a hunger to surpass all limits, Wade endured every wound as another step in his transformation. He became a living weapon, perfected through pain, ready to step onto the blood-soaked battlefield of Krakoa, surrounded by cheers and chaos. The sound of clashing metal and explosions echoed across the sky. In the midst of the carnage, Spider-Man managed to get close to Deadpool. In one decisive move, he tore off Wade's red mask. The face beneath it froze everyone in shock. After countless experiments and modifications, Wade's face had become so disfigured that it was nearly unrecognizable, a permanent reminder of everything he had suffered. Humiliation and betrayal consumed him. In a blind rage, Deadpool charged at Spider-Man with all his strength, unleashing a furious barrage of deadly strikes. Just as his blade was about to hit its mark, Shadowcat phased through his body, disrupting the electronic tissues inside. The systems overloaded and exploded in a burst of light and smoke, scattering debris everywhere. Believing he was dead, the X-Men and Spider-Man fled the island aboard the Blackbird jet, leaving Deadpool among the ashes. But Wade's story was far from over. After recovering, he joined the evil Deadpool Corps under the command of Dreadpool from Earth 12101. The Deadpool War soon became a twisted tragedy, a chaotic conflict where countless versions of Wade Wilson turned on each other in brutal slaughter. In the end, the Wade Wilson from Earth 616 defeated his alternate self, bringing an end to the blood-soaked spiral of madness and tragedy, a battle of a man who could never escape himself.
I really hope you'll subscribe to the channel, it helps us a lot, and you're absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
The symbiotic entity known as Carnage is considered the first offspring of Venom, born from a fragment that split off from it. During the time Venom attempted to rescue his host, Eddie Brock, from prison, that fragment was left behind and accidentally grew into an entirely new life form. This offspring soon found its host in Cletus Kasady, a deranged serial killer suffering from antisocial personality disorder. Through a wound on his hand, Cletus bonded with the symbiote, and their blood merged with the alien organic matter. The creature turned a deep crimson black, symbolizing pure insanity and limitless bloodlust. From that moment on, Cletus called himself Carnage, a being of chaos and absolute brutality, and the eternal nemesis of both Spider-Man and Venom. After years of spreading terror, Carnage was eventually separated from Cletus. However, the symbiote did not completely vanish. Norman Osborn, the man once known as the Green Goblin, seized the remaining fragment and merged with it, transforming into the Red Goblin, a creature of unimaginable power beyond anything humanity had ever seen. In his madness, Norman even infused part of the symbiote into his grandson, Normie, turning the boy into the Goblin Child. The battle between Spider-Man and the Red Goblin was fierce and devastating. In the end, Peter Parker used his wit to force Norman to separate from the symbiote before destroying it completely. Although the creature was thought to be wiped out, traces of Carnage still lingered within Cletus's body. Those remnants revived to save him as he fell from the atmosphere, but the regeneration process ultimately killed them both. The symbiote fragment from Goblin Child became the only surviving strain. It was later removed from Normie and taken to Alchemax for research. Even in captivity, the remnants of Carnage stood as a terrifying reminder that violence and madness never truly disappear. They merely wait for the right moment to return. Carnage maintained a symbiotic link with its original host. When Cletus consumed Scorn's brain, It triggered the revival of the consciousness of the original symbiote through the current Grendel strand, fully restoring its vitality and primal essence. Conflict soon erupted between them, forcing Cletus to separate Carnage from the extrembiote. Now acting independently, Carnage pursued its own mission, seeking the status of a god butcher, much like Gore and Null, driven by its desire to dominate and annihilate divine beings. This path ended in tragedy when Carnage lent the All Blood, a sacred weapon infused with vast energy it had collected, to Meridius to help him prevail in the Venom War. The result was catastrophic. The All Blood was destroyed, leaving Carnage severely weakened and nearly dissolved without a host. In a final act of desperation, the creature proposed an alliance with Eddie Brock, who was also battered and on the verge of collapse. Its plan was to use him as a temporary vessel while searching for a more suitable host, reigniting its ambition to ascend to ultimate godhood. This unholy union marked a new turning point, setting the stage for massive cosmic conflicts to come, where ancient power would clash with the unyielding will of modern warriors. After a brutal confrontation with Styx, where the Venom symbiote was believed to have been completely destroyed, its former host, Eddie Brock, was imprisoned in a high-security facility designed for inmates without superhuman abilities. There, he was forced to share a cell with Cletus Kasady, a psychotic serial killer serving 11 consecutive life sentences on Rikers Island, leading to an immediate and hostile relationship between the two. However, the Venom symbiote wasn't truly dead, it had merely entered a weakened, dormant state. Once it regained its strength, it tracked Eddie down, reuniting briefly with him before leaving again to continue its mission of hunting and seeking revenge on Spider-Man. During that time, the Venom symbiote underwent an emergency reproductive process, an instinctive defense mechanism triggered by the looming threat of Thanos, who was hunting the Infinity Stone. It left behind its 999th generation offspring at the scene. This young symbiote immediately sought out the nearest host, attaching itself to Kasady and seeping into his bloodstream through an open wound on his hand. The fusion was perfect, a blend of chaos and raw primal power. From that union, a terrifying black and red being was born, calling itself Carnage. It possessed superior shape-shifting abilities and an uncontrollable urge for destruction. For nearly a month, Kasady and his new partner, whom he affectionately called Red, hid quietly behind bars, whispering to each other about violent plans, feeding their hunger for freedom and revenge. Eventually, their partnership exploded in a savage outburst when they slaughtered a prison guard and escaped, sparking a wave of bloody massacres that spread across the city. At every crime scene, Carnage left deranged messages written in the victims' fresh blood, calling them the laws of Carnage, transforming them into symbols of pure chaos and warnings to anyone who dared intervene. This uprising not only unleashed unimaginable power, but also marked the beginning of a dark new era, one where the line between humanity and darkness was completely erased, forcing heroes to confront a threat that spread like a plague through the very veins of modern society. Eventually, Carnage faced Spider-Man in a vicious showdown, where the wall crawler was initially overpowered by Carnage's sheer strength. Realizing his opponent shared the same symbiotic nature, Spider-Man sought help from Venom, who had been living in seclusion on a deserted island far from humanity. In a reluctant alliance, Spider-Man and Venom joined forces and launched a coordinated assault that culminated in a decisive victory inside the massive Madison Square Garden, where the father and son symbiotes were completely defeated before a horrified audience. Carnage appeared to be annihilated for good. However, it was later revealed that the symbiote had bonded so deeply with Kasady's blood that it permanently altered his biology and metabolism. This transformation allowed Kasady to regenerate the symbiote from his own blood whenever it came into contact with air, effectively turning him into an endless source of chaos. Building on this resurgence, Carnage allied himself with Shriek, a twisted mirror of Spider-Man, along with several other villains, launching a citywide massacre across New York. They spread terror through random, savage attacks, leaving chaos in their wake. In the end, this criminal alliance was crushed by the combined efforts of Spider-Man, Venom, and a diverse team of superheroes who joined forces to restore temporary order. Following a tense confrontation with Venom, Kasady pretended to fall into a long-term coma, deceiving the authorities while quietly waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. When an invading symbiote entity was accidentally summoned to Earth by Venom's primal scream during a chase, Kasady seized the opportunity, manipulating the situation to his advantage. He tricked the creature into activating and releasing Carnage from his own bloodstream, then reabsorbed it. Empowered far beyond his previous limits, Carnage plunged into a frenzy of consuming and assimilating other symbiotic beings, his body expanding to monstrous proportions until he became a global threat, capable of devouring everything in his path. However, he was ultimately defeated by a combined assault from Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider, and Venom. The deafening screams of their allied symbiotes reached a critical resonance, triggering a chain reaction of self-destruction among all hostile entities, erasing them in a wave of collective agony. This victory not only reinforced the fragile unity among the heroes, but also revealed the limitless potential hidden within Carnage's bloodline. It hinted at future conflicts where primal power could be reborn from even a single drop of blood, threatening the very foundation of cosmic order and forcing the defenders of the universe to unite more tightly than ever to contain the spread of eternal darkness. Despite now wielding incredible power, the Carnage symbiote remains uncertain about its readiness to achieve its ultimate goal. Instead, it chooses to indulge in the human experiences it once rejected during its pursuit of godhood, relishing the chaos and violent fury it unleashes alongside its new host. Deadpool hurls a grenade straight at Carnage and his minions, but they instantly lash out with their long, whipping tendrils, sending the explosive flying back toward him in a blink. Fire and smoke erupt, lighting up the dark battleground. Even as Deadpool slashes through the swarm with razor-sharp sword strikes and a relentless hail of bullets, Carnage stands firm, powered by the Darkhold. His crimson skin glows fiercely, shrugging off flames and explosions without flinching. He charges forward with terrifying speed, claws ripping through the air, easily overpowering Deadpool with the monstrous strength granted by the Absolute Carnage event. When both Carnage and Venom absorbed massive amounts of energy, their bodies had become living masses of muscle and spikes, dripping with thick, black liquid. Even Venom, after absorbing an extra symbiote to bulk up his glossy black form, struggles to hold his ground against Carnage. Under the moonlight, Carnage's glowing red veins shimmer across his body, proving he's stronger and far more ruthless than Venom. His twisted grin revealing rows of jagged teeth, I'd say Venom's the next one to fall, though his new strength might help him last a bit longer against the symbiote-covered Spider-Man. As Venom once admitted in Go Down Swinging, the symbiote amplifies its host's natural abilities. For Spider-Man, whose body is already built for agility and power, this means he actually surpasses Venom when both are enhanced. The slick, black symbiote clings tightly to Spider-Man's body, moving like living threads, helping him strike harder and leap higher across the ruins of collapsing buildings. Though he's still getting used to controlling the symbiote as a living partner rather than just a suit, Spider-Man holds the upper hand with his speed and sharp combat instincts. When he darts through the shadows, the symbiote's red eyes glowing intensely, you can tell he's beginning to master its power, and that might just be enough to take down Venom. As expected, Venom becomes the next casualty in this chain of defeats. To stop Carnage, Venom and Spider-Man have no choice but to team up, relying on their numbers and Venom's long experience with symbiotic combat. Without that alliance, Spider-Man alone with his limited control over the symbiote would stand little chance against Carnage, the perfect fusion of man and monster. His slimy, blood-soaked skin pulses with life, healing wounds in seconds as his deep red flesh writhes. Carnage outclasses both Spider-Man and Venom in raw power. He can morph his symbiote into an arsenal of deadly melee weapons, axes, spears, or web-like tendrils strong enough to crush steel, making up for any lack of fighting technique. Deadpool makes one last desperate move, blasting deafening dubstep through his speakers, hoping the sound waves will exploit Carnage's old weakness. But since bonding with the Darkhold, Carnage is completely immune. His enormous body trembles with maniacal laughter as he lunges forward like a red hurricane. His claws tear through Deadpool's immortal flesh, shredding him into flying chunks. Red and black blood splatter across the cracked concrete as the battlefield erupts into chaos and echoing screams. I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Follow me if you liked it. That's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching.